So it's been a while since I've had an update, and I'm kind of in a holding pattern right now. Almost ready to pour the concrete walls, but not quite. I was hoping to do it this week, but my concrete guy isn't available. Hopefully next week. We'll see. But maybe I'll just do an overview of all the tens of tasks that had to be accomplished to get to this point. So I put up the braces and the turnbuckles. These turnbuckles adjust the walls in and out. And the scaffolding, I put a 2x12 and a 2x4 to walk on, which seems fairly secure. And once there's the guardrail, it seems it's not so scary to walk on. What else? Oh, because the floor had this high point over here, everywhere else there was a big gap that I had to spend 2 or 3 days filling, which probably would have been a lot easier if I had just gone back and carved out the high point so that the rest of it could have been filled with just one little seam of expanding foam. The expanding foam didn't expand enough to fill the gap, so I had to stuff in some other rigid insulation, and that took a while on the inside and outside. And I've braced up all the common seams on the inside and outside. There are 8 of these because there's 8 distinct walls. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a small one because it's where the door is. 6, 7, and 8. So that actually takes quite a few pieces of wood because for each seam there's 14 boards inside and outside. I installed some penetrations, typically 4-inch ABS or 2-inch PVC. So this penetration is for an alternate dryer vent. This penetration is for electrical and main water. One of these is for the planned dryer vent and HVAC. This one is for an electrical circuit for the light well, for lights and plugs. This penetration is just in case. And then there's one more penetration over here for electrical lighting and plugs for the walkout. I've braced up all the windows. It's kind of hard to see, but each window has been braced up, top and bottom, back and forth. Holes have been cut out of the window sills so that the concrete can fill up the window sills and not have air trapped underneath. Let's see. Maybe we'll go up on the scaffolding now. So probably the most difficult thing was installing these hold downs They have to be embedded 30 inches into the wall with a 3x3 plate washer and nuts and a rebar cage surrounding it. This was quite difficult. I had 20 of these. And then I have anchor bolts that I had to plan out. So I framed the entire house in SketchUp so that I would know where I would require anchor bolts. So I have been able to plan this all ahead. But I just found out from my structural engineer today that these anchor bolts are only allowed to have a maximum 1/2 inch from the outside edge of the mud sill to the plate washer, which means that since the plate washer is a 3x3 plate, the anchor bolt can only be 2 inches from the outside edge of the form, and all of mine are 2 3/8 to 2.5 inches. So these all need to be replaced or respaced, and they can't be tied to this anymore, so I have to find some spacer to space all the anchor bolts out about 1/2 inch. I haven't figured out a solution for that yet. But here we have the hold down. So this bolt is a special bolt because this holds down the steel beam. It goes all the way across to the other wall. So it's a 40-foot long 10-inch by 10-inch I-beam that holds up the main floor. So this is a 3/4 inch anchor bolt, whereas all the others are 5/8 inch. And then this hold down here will be used for the other side of the I-beam. Lots of rebar. So this is a concrete lintel, which requires stirrups, rebar top and bottom, 4 places. And this is an L2 lintel, which requires rebar at the top and then 2 different rebars below. So there's 6 actually this has more than 6, but I think that's because of the laps. So this has a lot of rebar. Yes. So here's the sun setting and kind of the view from the scaffolding. The main floor will be a little bit higher. These really worry me. I just don't want to fall and get caught on this. So these hold downs, the drawings had an implied an assumption, which, since I'm not a builder, I did not know about, but it showed rebar just going through these cages, top and bottom, but it didn't say how far they had to go out. And I found out after the fact that they actually have to go out 24 to 28 inches to what is called be a fully developed rebar, where the rebar is actually grasped by the concrete. So almost all my rebar in these positions were too short, and they all had to be replaced. Another hold down, some rebar hooks around the corner, hold down, hold down, hold down, hold down. So this is an interesting corner where it has 2 hold downs that have to be attached to the same 6x6 post above. So this is just kind of has 2 rebar cages and just a lot of stuff going on here. So the windows on this side, architecturally, there was a mistake where the concrete lintel was not actually deep enough to allow for a structural lintel. But it's okay because this isn't really a load-bearing wall. It just has to support itself. So it has some rebar in there, and it's only about 8 inches deep, and it should be fine. Oh, also on the outside here is going to be the light well, and that's why there's rebar sticking out of the wall, which will be tied into the rebar once the light well gets poured. So I guess this is the current state of the project. Just waiting for a letter from the structural engineer and waiting for my concrete guy to be available. The only real work that's left to be done is bracing up the large opening. I didn't talk about the large opening. So this large opening has a French door, and next to the French door on the left is a large vertical window. And in between there's a post. That post was supposed to be concrete, but it was designed to be so narrow that it made me nervous. So instead, I'm making a concrete base and a concrete top and putting in a wooden post. And over here I can show you where I removed the styrofoam in the form so that there can be bare concrete for the post to bear on. And yes, so I guess the incomplete part is I haven't finished bracing out this opening yet, just because once it all gets braced out, it's going to be hard to come in and out. So I'm just kind of delaying that. But other than that, so what I have left to do is to figure out a way to space the anchor bolts correctly away from the correct distance from the outside of the forms, and then brace this window. And yesterday I measured the walls. This wall at the top of the form is 3/8 of an inch too long. The other 3 walls are within 1/8 of an inch of approximately, well, the east and west walls are 40 feet, and the north and south walls are 40 feet, and the east and west walls are 44 feet. So one wall is out by 3/8 of an inch, and the other 3 walls are out by 1/8 of an inch. But who knows what will happen when we pour concrete in.